Talking about Royce White. Hello, hello, hello. We're here to talk about Royce White in the 115 to 111 Rio Grande victory over the Aaaaah Energy, which took place last night, Wednesday, the 5th of March, 2013. So this one was a big one for Royce White. I think we finally got our first legitimate good game out of Royce White. He's had a decent game before. This is the first full good game out of Royce White. So the team wins 115 to 111. The D-League doesn't have that many statistics out about it, so I'm sort of making this up out of my own observation. But I don't think either team ever led by more than 7 points. That meant either team could have pulled out at any moment. They traded the lead. I heard 14 at one point in the third quarter. So at least 14 times the game they traded leads. So this was a good game to watch. And for the D-League, it's not often I find a game. It's been all blowouts. Everything I've seen is blowouts, and then the next game, the other team might blow out the one that blew out them the game before. This was a great game. So Aaaaah Energy has no NBA assignees. You'd think this would be a mismatch in talent, and according to the record, it was. The Vipers were second in their division. They are now number one with this, or they're tied for number one with this victory with the Sioux Fall Skyforce maybe tied with them. Anyway, the other team, the Aaaaah Energy, is not even in contention for the playoffs. So it was surprising to see them play such an even game. And you know, at times the Energy, I see their record right here, are 8-31. The Vipers are 22-14. At times, it looked like the Energy were going to pull away, especially in the third quarter when the big weakness of the Vipers is rebounding, and when the Energy started picking up. When they started picking up energy on the offensive boards, that's when this looked like the Energy might take this game. But yeah, no NBA assignees on the roster. Whereas, let me look at the Vipers roster. They have Royce White. Might only be two. Royce White and this guy, something Johnson. I think it's Chris Johnson. I think there's only two. There might be more, though. Anyway, the Vipers only had 8 people on the roster this game, which might have contributed to, a bunch of things in the game. Their energy, which dwindled at points. Maybe, 8 players compared to 11 players. There's a bunch of ways that affects the game. So they only had 8 on the roster because they made a trade earlier in the day that sent 2 players, maybe 3 players from the Vipers to another team, yes, and they received 2 in return. At first, I thought they traded Glenn Rice Jr., and if you've seen any of my videos, I love Glenn Rice Jr. I thought he got traded because he wasn't in the game. So he didn't start the game, which I thought was peculiar. He usually starts. But look at this, he did start. Maybe he came out very quickly, at which point I didn't notice that he was in the game. And then I heard about the trade, and then a new player came in, and I thought to myself, I've seen 7 players, and there's 8 active, and I do not see Glenn Rice, and I flipped. But he was not traded. He came in like right after that. Thank God. So they'll have the rest of those players in the upcoming games. When this game started, I heard that the opposing center, what's his name? They had Jeffers. Famous was his last name. A lot of great last names in this game. On the Aaaaah Energy, you have Strong Gilchrist, which is cool because there's Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Hurt, a bunch of, you can make jokes all game about that. Famous, that's awesome. And on the Vipers, there's White, Rice. Well, the Vipers, we know who's on the Vipers. But anyway, the Aaaaah Energy, if not a very good team, have a very well-named team, which is kind of cool. But anyway, their center is 6'11", so I immediately remembered Harkless. I remembered Hilton Armstrong. I thought of Melvin Ely, and I was like, well, Royce White's about to have a rough game again. Didn't really turn out that way. This center wasn't as talented as the other guys, and I'll talk about that later. But it actually went okay. So let's start the game. Game starts, second possession of the game, 11 minutes left in the first quarter. Royce White misses an easy lay-in. This is going to be a theme in this game, and it's something we've seen from Royce White a lot. But in this game, because he this was kind of a coming out for him, a coming of age. I don't know. I feel like it's called coming out, but there's other connotations with coming out. So let's just call it a coming of age for Royce White. And but he missed so many damn shots. He had a double-double, which was cool. He had, I believe, 10 and 10, and then 5 assists, which is kind of near his college numbers, and hopefully the numbers he gets in the NBA. So that was good, but he could have had 20. He could have had 20 points, and maybe not with the shot selection he had, but it could be one of those things where, you see 2 shots going and you're more confident on the third. And with the sort of lay-ins that Royce White is making, you have to see those go in for you to feel confident making the next one. I've talked about his $1 million move 10-cent trailer park finishes, trailer trash finishes before. When you make one of those moves and you miss it, the next time you do it, and this is just speaking from my experience, but the results are same for me and the results are same for Royce White. When you don't see it go in, the next time you do those moves, it's not, you feel rushed, or not rushed, but there's not the awareness of where the bucket is. You're concentrating more on, I need to get this damn move right so I can get to the bucket, and less of a overall awareness of where you are in the court, where the basket is or the bucket is relative to you. And when you see it go in and everything starts to flow, those shots start falling. He missed a bunch of them in this game. I think if he had made a few more, he would have taken more and been more confident and taken more of a role as a scorer in the offense. But as it stands, his stats were 10 points on 4 of 10 shooting, 35 minutes, missed the 3. It was a bad 3. I don't even want to talk about that. I mean, it was just at the end of a shot clock, so it wasn't going in. 10 rebounds, 4 on the offensive end, 5 assists, 5 fouls, 2 turnovers, 3 blocked shots. Stat-wise, that's a good game, and it was a good game. So, misses that put in at the very beginning of the game. Something I like to see, though, was that he got immediately back on defense. A lot of times, Royce White puts down his head after a bad play, has a quip with the ref. I've never used the word quip in conversation before. I hope I did it right. He doesn't get back immediately the way you hope he would. He did, which was, I like to see. I think it's the first time I really noticed him doing that. Chris Johnson hits a 3, I should have said this before, in the first play of the game. He was the most important, I don't know about most important, but they don't win this game without Chris Johnson. I said, I'll talk about him later, but they don't win this game without Chris Johnson. 9 minutes left in the first. Royce White, first bucket, off of a nice move. My only description right here is nice in all capitals, but I do know he scored, and the movement was looking good. And it usually does for the Vipers in the beginning. A lot of times they'll have a play where there'll be 3 quick passes. I remember 2 games ago, one last game, where Glenn Rice got his man up and might even got fouled on the finish, that Royce White is always involved in. It always happens in the beginning of the game. Happened again. Great to see. Chris Johnson hits another 3. Royce White comes out of the game with 7 minutes left in the half. I don't really know why. I think he had gotten a foul maybe by this point. Not 2, though. He didn't get into foul trouble until late, but they gave him a quick 2-minute rest. Not really sure why. So at halftime, Royce White's stats are 7 points, 8 rebounds, I think 1 or 2 assists. I didn't hear them say that. And 2 fouls. I was sitting there thinking this is Royce White's first for Winnebago game because he was playing well. There was the missed layups, which they're bad, but the fact that they didn't affect the rest of his play and the rest of his play was good overshadowed the missed shots. So here I am ready to give Royce White 4 out of 5 Winnebagos. And I said, well, obviously, let's wait to the second half and see if this is a tale of 2 Royce Whites. And sort of was. So this was the best half of basketball he's played as a Viper, though. he didn't have any breakdowns, which he usually does often later in the game, but sometimes in the beginning too. And it's not always a breakdown that results in turnovers. He'll break down and not play defense on a few possessions. There's the turnovers. He'll get pissed off about a call, get a tech. There's a bunch of ways his game can break down. None of those. No forced shots. Usually this isn't the only problem he has with forced shots is that sometimes he'll neglect offensive movement or misjudge what should be going on in the offense and take it to the rack by himself. That's his biggest weakness, and that's his forced shots problem. He didn't have much of that in this game. He took good shots that he missed. He was a defensive presence, which is big for Royce White because he's not really known as a defender, and I've been wondering, and I'm sure everyone else is, if you think about Royce White on the not offensive side for even a second, if he's a liability. I'm trying to think back to Boris Diaw's days. I know it's hard to call anyone on the Phoenix Suns a defensive liability, and I think that's where he played his best ball. And the reason it's difficult to call anyone a defensive liability is because they didn't play defense very well. It was more of an offense, and I'm going to outscore the other team. So I don't know why I'm talking about Boris Diaw. Anyway, I do a lot when I talk about Royce White, but Royce White is not a defensive liability, or rather he wasn't in this game. At the end of the game, he has 3 blocked shots, and they were all good blocked shots. They weren't like Hassan Whiteside rejecting someone at the rim, but they were him being with a player who is, keeping with a player who was going towards the bucket and getting the shot out. And the difference between Hassan Whiteside's blocks and Royce White's is that Whiteside's kind of the result of the block is the ball goes far away, but to who, you don't really know. He could swat it out of bounds. He could swat it to the other team. They might get a bucket right off of that swat. Whereas with Royce White, the ball sort of falls right where it was hit, and it's not better or worse. Actually, I would say it's better just because I hate when Hassan Whiteside's blocks turn the play into chaos. And sometimes I wish it was controlled chaos, but no, it is chaos. One time it was a one-on-one, him and some player taking it to the rack. He blocks it, and it's just him, and he's in a great position to get the ball back, but he hits it out of bounds, and it's like, damn it, you're a shot blocker. You should have the awareness to not knock it out of bounds when it's so easy for you to, if you get the block, to take that the other way. And so it's not as chaotic as Hassan's, so that's cool. He kept the team off the offensive boards in the first. Honestly, it might be less that and more the team wasn't crashing the boards because they came out after the half crashing the boards. But Royce White had 10 rebounds total. I want to say I was counting them. He had 5 or 6. I say, hey, here, 8. Wow. Well, I should trust my notes. I think he might have had 8 in the first half out of his 10. I remember 1 specifically in the second half, which means he would only have 1 other. Maybe it might have been 7, but it was more than half. And it wasn't difficult to get these rebounds. A lot of times it was just him there. So I don't know. Either he was keeping the team off the offensive boards or the other team wasn't crashing the boards as hard as they did in the second half. So that's the tale of the first half for Royce White. Second half, he comes in. The rebounds aren't going his way. The only difference to me, immediately apparent, is the rolls. I feel like the rebounds were bouncing towards him in the first half, but in the second half, his position didn't change, just the luck of the bounce changed. And that was true on a few plays, but maybe it took me a while to just notice that more players were crashing the boards now. Maybe he would have got those rebounds in the first half, whereas in the second, more players, less of a chance of him grabbing it. So it starts to get bad for the Vipers midway through the third quarter when the Energy have 6 or 7 shots, I am not exaggerating, that are dunks or layups, and probably 4 or 5 of them were dunks. This is something that the Vipers have not seen before. They've had trouble at the offensive with offensive rebounds, but never before have I just seen the heart of their defense just get pounded play after play, and it didn't matter what was going on with the Vipers offense. On defense, they were going to get dunked on in the middle of their defense, and that had to have been demoralizing, just getting dunked on over and over and over. You don't like getting dunked on. When you get dunked on a game, they tell you it's 2 points, and that's what you tell yourself: 2 points, get back. And I remember one time when they were playing the Texas Legends, the Vipers were another player. He's their point guard. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's a former MVP. Anyway, he's their best player. He hit a 3 off of a huge Glenn Rice dunk. Just right back up the court, hit a 3. And that sort of, when you're on the team that hits the 3, it's sort of yeah, you got that dunk, but we got more points than you. It's kind of a apples and oranges argument. The apple is I just got a huge, awesome dunk. The orange is, yeah, but we just got more points than you did. So anyway, you always want to get someone back when they dunk on you. But when you get dunked on 7 times in a row, I can imagine. I've never been dunked on 7 times in a row, but I can imagine you're like, shit, you're not feeling good. And especially, you can't get them back every time. And these feelings kind of compound to the point where you just keep getting dunked on. You just keep playing. You're demoralized. The coach did make the appropriate adjustment, although I wish it didn't take 6 or 7 dunks before he did. Nick Nurse puts in Hassan Whiteside and shifts to a 2-3 zone, which stopped the 2-3 zones are weak against. I guess if you're moving the ball around, players on the outside. There's only okay. It's hard for me to break down I've never broken down a 2-3 zone verbally before. But the point is, with ball movement, the zone has to collapse on wherever the ball is threatening to be scored, at which point someone else becomes open, and you can get easiest shots, usually jumpers. And if you knock the jumpers down, because they are easy if you're moving the ball well, or they're open if you're moving the ball well, then usually the team has to come out of the zone because you've exploited the weakness of the 2-3 zone. So that's what happened. But it was after 6 or 7 dunks. It was bad. Luckily, Chris Johnson was hitting big 3, not after big 3, but he was hitting big 3s that kept them in the game. It was like 2 points, maybe 2 points for the Vipers. Another dunk, no score for the Vipers. Another dunk, a 3 for Chris Johnson, which means they're only down 1. Another dunk, another 3, which means they're winning. And then 2 more dunks, and then maybe another 3. So they didn't score as often, but when they did, it was 3s. So I think they didn't come out of that trade, this like stretch with the dunks. They didn't come out of that trade winning, but they were kept in it by Chris Johnson's 3-point shooting, and Glenn Rice also hit another big 3. Chris Johnson hit 2 or 3 of them. Glenn Rice hit 1. So 7 minutes left in the half. Royce White comes out. Oh, no. Sorry, I lost my place in my notes. So 4:10 left in the third quarter. He dodges a foul. He got taken out by his coach. He has 3 at this point, I want to say. 3? No, it might have been 4. He had 4 at this point, which is very close to foul trouble. Now, I think this decision to take him out after picking up his... I'm sorry. I'm a little mixed up. 4:10, he dodges a foul. And then I think a minute later, I messed up my notes. A minute later, Royce White does pick up a foul, at which point he has 4, and Glenn Rice comes in for him. He doesn't return until I think there were 8 minutes left in the fourth. Yeah, 8:13 left in the fourth, he returns. So that's an extended break for him. I guess 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes. That's a 6 or 7 minute break for him, which is big. He only had 2, and this was good for him. He also got a rest, but he had a 2-minute rest earlier in the game. He played 35 minutes total, so I guess the math makes sense. So Royce White comes back in with 8:13. With 6 minutes left, he gets called on a foul, and it was BS. It really, really was. I guess I watched the video in not so great quality because it's on YouTube. I streamed it on YouTube, and it looked to me like he purposefully stayed away from the play. His hands were up, and his coach definitely said something to him, continually, actually, because in plays where I've seen him, where in the past he would have picked up fouls, I literally saw him stay away from the play. A lot of times he let them score rather than pick up a foul. This looked like he stayed away from the play, and the refs were really mediocre. They were calling a lot of fouls that didn't really, you need to allow some fouling in some plays in the game to contribute to the flow of the game. They were calling everything, and it made it kind of painful to watch the game. You shouldn't call all that. You kind of set a line, and that establishes you have a tone for the game. They were all over the place. They would miss huge fouls, clear, obvious fouls, and then call these little ones, which is just bad reffing to me. So they call this BS foul. 6 minutes left. Right back down the court. 5:40 left. Royce White's open on the roll. I'm watching this. I see it coming. I'm like, yep, Royce White, dunk. I'm happy for Royce White. I'm happy for the team that they score because it's such a close game still. I think it was a 1-point game, a bunch late down the stretch. Goudelock doesn't see him. Goudelock's passing game wasn't really on. Let me see his stats. I can tell you from watching the game, his stats weren't really. I mean, his passing wasn't great. 6 assists. He did score 26 points, and they were in traditional Goudelock form. He's quick. He gets a lot of lay-ins, a lot of floaters. He was 2 of 6 from the 3-point line. I remember both of his threes though. They were big threes. 4 of 4 from the foul line. His point guarding wasn't really. He wasn't on the ball in that respect in this game. So that results in, I can't remember what. The Energy take the ball down, miss, and off of the rebound, Royce White, he's probably on the 3-point line. He's taken a few dribbles after he's gotten the rebound. He does a full court pass to Goudelock, who gets an open layup. Now, being an affiliate of the Rockets, I immediately thought of the sort of plays Jeremy Lin makes, where he tosses it to Parsons or Harden all the way down the court. And this is good to see Royce White making Rocket-esque plays as a player for the Rockets. It's promising for his role with the Rockets. People have doubted whether Royce White was ever going to touch the court for the Rockets. It's good to see these sort of plays because that's what the Rockets run. And that'd be cool because they don't have a point forward on that team. So I'm not going to speculate as to how he fits into the team because I haven't thought about that. I don't even think I'm qualified to talk about that. But it's cool that he has the skill set that works in the Rockets system. So that's with 5:37 left. And I gave him a B well for that. I'll count up the B wells in a second. If you don't know what B wells are, during the game, if he makes a poor play, I'll take away a B well. If he makes a good play, I'll give him a B well. And I don't give him a B well for every bucket. If I see him work real hard and I see him maybe push out a player on the offensive end, who's trying to get a defensive board, that's something Royce White doesn't usually do. And when he does, and it results in like an and one, I'll give him a B well for that. And when he puts his head down and he watches a player score on him, I'll take away a B well. So, and at the end of the game, I count him as B wells. In the last game, he had a trailer trash game, is what I call it. Winnebago White. So bad games are trailer trash. He had -4 B wells. He had a few positive, but a whole bunch of negative. This game was better. So 4 minutes left. This is a very close game, and he has another $1 million move. No cent, broke ass welfare finish. Royce, why do you do this? He did it a bunch in the game, but 4 minutes left. It was so necessary for him to make the shot. This is going to be in the highlights anyway, so I won't talk any more about it. I'll whine about it there. But I think the Energy are tied at this point with the Vipers. 1 minute left in the game. Goudelock misses, or 45 seconds left in the game. I don't even have notes on it. I remember this. 45 seconds left in the game. Goudelock misses a lay-in. Game is tied, there might have been a 1-point difference. But anyway, this game could go either way. You do not know who's going to win this game. And Royce White works his way to get an offensive board, puts back the shot 2 points, timeout, and everyone. That's sort of the bucket where that was a really, really important bucket. That's like it's a step back from the 3 that puts you into 2 possession territory. You were scared for the Vipers if that didn't go in, but it did. And go Royce White for that. I think that's going to be great for his confidence that he pulled that off. So then some free throws, fouls. The Energy can't put it together. The Vipers win the game, 115 to 111. Before I count up his B Wells and give Royce White his Winnebago score for the game, I'm going to talk about some of the troubles he had not finishing plays. I whine about this a lot. I'm going to continue to. I think I said what needed to be said earlier, that he needs to see a few of these go in, and I kind of attribute this to him not being in shape, because you don't develop a game where you constantly have these moves that get you open at the rim and you don't finish them. You don't develop that game unless you see that go in, because if you're doing that at the college level, at the high school level, and you're not making it, the coaches know that's not part of your game, and they tell you to stop shooting like that, and you develop a different role. You're guided toward a different role. That he sometimes makes them, and when he doesn't, they're easy shots. You're going to see in the replay. If you are standing there and you don't, no context of the move, of who's defending you, of the tone of the game, you make those 90. I make those 90% of the time. Royce White makes them 99.9996. But he doesn't make them, and that makes me think that it's a mental thing right now. He will make those, I hope, I expect, in the future. Foul trouble. He managed to pick up 5 damn fouls again. He got one on the offensive end. I told you these refs were kind of with their calls. I disagreed with a few of them, but I think Royce does sort of throw his hand in unnecessarily. And I just threw my hand in my couch. I'm pretty into this right now. But he does. The player's trying to score, and the coaches tell you not to do this. You kind of hit the other player with one arm. That's an easy foul to shake off, number 1, and still score. And number 2, you're never going to get anything good out of that. Maybe you hit the ball, but the sideways swipe isn't going to get the ball as much as the vertical swipe down. Sometimes that will hit out the ball. But the sideways swipe is just going to hit the player's arm, and he's going to finish the play. He does the sideways swipe. I think he did it once, and it was a little baby one, but they called him on it. And then one time, I think he didn't do anything, and he got a foul. Anyway, foul trouble. It was scary. The coach did a good job of managing his minutes so that he could play confidently up until the 4th quarter when he got into foul trouble, at which point it's do or die time, and you're not paying attention to whether you're fouling players or not, which I think was the right way to manage that. So that was good. Effort. I told you his first half was the best half of basketball I've seen from him. When he made a bad play, he didn't put his head down. He immediately sprinted down the court. Second half, you saw less of that. Royce White always has these moments of contemplation after he makes a bad play or doesn't score. I don't know what he thinks. I imagine he says, shit, I should have made that. But the moments of contemplation sometimes turn into 10 seconds of arguing with a referee or getting disengaged from a play. And that did happen in the second half. That kind of pissed me off to see, but it wasn't as bad as it has been in the past. And when you win, all is forgiven. Which maybe this is the sort of thing where, well, I mean, shit, what am I going to do about it? I'm talking about it because it's there. I hope he works on that. He did a great job in the first half. Second half did a good job. I say good. Not because it was barely there and good according to the standard that is Royce White. I've seen him bad, and I've seen his bad attitude turn into bad play. That was good because he sort of stuck with the game, even though he kind of put his head down a little bit. But it's something I'm going to continue to talk about. In this game, I will say first half good, second half good-ish. So let me count up his B Wells now. So Royce White ends the game with +4 B Wells. This is only the second game I've counted B Wells for him, but I'm glad to see the guy got positive B Wells, because last game he got negative B Wells. I'm sorry, he got -4 last game. I'll just count them up right now because I have a few different numbers right here. 6:20 in the first quarter. Royce White blocks a player going to the rim, passes the ball up to midcourt, ball gets passed up again. Goudelock is open in transition for a three and hits it. It was a big three. I mean, every shot in this game was big, being that the score was so close. I gave him a B well for that. He was a essential part of a defensive stop and an offensive three-pointer. That's a great play, and Royce White was the root of that play. Be well. He was playing well, and at the end of the first half, just based on his strong play, I gave him a B well, which is okay. This is this is my scoring system, and I think when he's playing well, there isn't a direct play I can attribute the B well to. But if he's playing well, scores a few times, I'm going to give him a B well. So at this point, he's at +2 B wells. He misses. This is when the misses started pissing me off. He misses a very easy layup with 6:45 left in the second quarter. At that point, I had to, because he had missed a few, take away a B well from him. So -1 B well there. And then with 4:45, he doesn't put his head down like I've seen him do before, but a few possessions later, he dives on the floor and turns a I guess they were on offense. So he turns a offensive rebound, or it wasn't going to be a rebound, but it was a scrum. It was a scrum resulting from a missed shot. He gets the possession for his team based on diving on the floor. And I've never seen Royce White dive on the floor and fight for the ball before, and he did. So I give him a B well there. Second half, the full court pass off of a rebound for I don't know, I talked about this earlier. The full court pass off of a rebound was a spectacular play on his part, and it just made me so happy to see it and so happy to know that he has that in his arsenal. Even though I suspected it, I finally saw it. He gets a +1 for that. He turns the ball over in the fourth quarter, doesn't get back on defense. The announcers are I don't see as much as the announcers do, and they said Royce White was like, he was walking up the court like, damn it, my bad, I'm sorry about that. Because it was a dumb turnover. Like, a player he had the ball on the left side of the court near the three. He sort of did a dribble move, didn't go anywhere. A player was cutting from the basket out to the three-point line in the center of the court to start a play over, swing the ball, whatever. Royce White isn't looking and does a no-look pass that doesn't really make sense. Considering how the guy was moving, and it goes right to the defense. So Royce White's reaction is, damn it, my bad. No problem with that, but he doesn't get back on defense. He's walking up the court like, I can't believe I did that. And that, I don't want to see that from him. And then what happened? Oh, there was a foul off the ball. So at that point, he got time to get up the court. His man gets the ball on offense and scores on him, and Royce White just watches the shot. I hate when he does that. So at this point, he kind of got into a mental funk, and there weren't many of them, but this was the worst one. A turnover and then a bucket on him. 2 negative plays. I give him a negative B well for that. And then I had to give him, at the end of the game, a B well for that clutch-ass tip-in. So let's count them up. 1 B well, 2 B wells, 1 B well, 2 B wells, 3 B wells, 2 B wells, 3 B wells for Royce Winnebago. And he gets for the game 3.5 Winnebagos out of 5 Winnebagos. Yay! Good game from Royce White. So it's a work night. I got to get up early tomorrow. I'm not going to go through all the players I'm not going to do my usual player highlights. They play the Iowa Energy again tonight, and because I'm in the UK, the game comes on 1 a.m. for me. What I usually do is I'll kind of sit around and not do much. I won't work out or anything, and then I'll watch the first quarter of this game, take notes, and then rewatch the game tomorrow and sort of skip through the first quarter. Just look for things I didn't really catch. So these videos are going to be up later. Hopefully I can get one done tomorrow. But yeah, by cutting out the player spotlights, it sort of saves me some time. I will still do some Royce White highlights. But anyway, players of note on the Vipers this game were Chris Johnson, who was 6 of 9 from 3, 22 points. He was big mainly because of his 3-point game. Glenn Rice had a good game, some good and some bad. 14 rebounds, 20 points. Andrew Goudlock scored 26, but his role was really contained to a score for this game. And I like to see games where he does more than that, but he is superior. He has a superior offensive scoring game, and so he did put up 26, 2 of 6 from 3, 10 of 19 from the floor. Malik Wayans, I really don't like this guy's game. He takes it to the bucket a lot, but he also and he's good at that. For some reason, he reminds me of Kevin Hart. I mean, he's short, but he's not as dark as Kevin Hart, and he's not bad at basketball. But I think Kevin Hart whenever I see him. He takes it to the rack a lot. A lot of times I think it's ill-advised. He should run the offense, but instead he takes the opportunity. And he's short, so he gets blocked at the rim sometimes. A lot of times he can't even get a shot up, he gets a bad shot up. Other times he'll score, and he did make some big shots in this game. Glad he had the balls to take big shots, and he was from 3. He did make a big 3 late in the fourth quarter before Royce White's tip-in, which is overshadowed by the tip-in, but 2 of 5 from 3. He also turned the ball over 5 times, led the team in turnovers. So Malik Wayans, he kind of pisses me off. Hassan Whiteside had an okay game, some good plays, some bad plays. He had 23 minutes. Last game he played 13, which I was kind of pissed about. Played more this time. He was kind of lost at the center of the 2-3 zone. I saw that a few times. It didn't always result in being scored on, but at the NBA level, it will more often result in being scored on. And so that I have to admit I wasn't watching him. I mean, I can't watch everyone. I was watching Royce White more closely, but I did see him lost, and I was like, defensive awareness, lost some points there. So without further ado, Royce White highlights. Thanks for listening.